Today I want to talk about skateboarding games. I know it's a big shocker on this channel, but I mostly want to talk about why skateboarding games, modern skateboarding games anyway, seem to be kind of doomed to fail. Because I've been thinking about this quite a lot recently with the recent reception of Skate and the kind of recent Halloween event, the season 1 and everything, and the fact that it's not been going well for Skate in terms of winning over the community and keeping people happy. A lot of people are pretty disappointed in this game in one way or another, but that's not exclusive to Skate, and it's definitely not new to the skateboarding genre, especially the skate sim genre, which Skate kind of bridges the gap between skate sim and mainstream kind of casual arcadey skateboarding game. A lot of people call it a simcade, which I think is the best way to describe Skate. Somebody who is a part and has been a part of the skate sim community for a number of years now, this is very much a game that has kind of taken hold of a lot of skate sim players. A lot of session players, a lot of Skater XL players have gone over to Skate full time and have been making some really sick edits, getting clips, doing videos, whatever, and just generally playing this game more than those other games. So, you know, it's safe to say that Skate has kind of taken over the skate sim community to an extent. Obviously, we still have diehard session players. There's still diehard Skater XL players. I still think Skate has very much impacted the skate sim niche quite a bit. So I think that it is worth kind of talking about this game amongst the likes of Session and Skater XL as well. They're kind of the three main skateboarding games at the minute. That being said, I think Skater XL doesn't have much of a leg to stand on because the developers have well and truly abandoned that game for a number of years now. There is rumors that there is an internal updated build with all of the features that they promised us in 2023, but I don't know how true that is. That's really just rumors. So I do think that Session and Skate are kind of the two main games right now, but it's still worth mentioning Skater XL because it follows the trend that both Skate and Session have also followed, which is not reaching people's expectations and leading to a lot of disappointment, and also just kind of generally pissing off their community and their player base. It just seems to be a trend with modern skateboarding games that eventually they're going to really disappoint their community. And I'm not just talking about, like, you know, annoying a small portion of that community. I'm talking about doing something that just completely, like, alienates the entire player base. Skater XL pretty much completely turned their back on their community when they came out and said that they're not going to do anything that the community asks for, and they're just following their own vision for the game. The context of that is that people wanted a stats menu and wanted more settings, more kind of customization to come to the base game. Obviously, anybody that plays Skater XL on PC is playing a very, very heavily modded version that the community has basically turned into their own game. That was crazy. Obviously, Skater XL players, especially on console, wanted a stats menu and wanted all the benefits that PC players had with mods. Skater XL came out and said that's not their vision for this game. So Easy Day pretty much completely ruined their reputation and lost all credibility when it comes to Skater XL. And yeah, not a single person supports the Skater XL developers, that's for sure. And then when it comes to the Session developers, Creature, along with a bunch of kind of promised updates that were in earlier roadmaps that then ended up getting scrapped, I think their kind of point of pissing off their entire player base and community was when they nuked their Discord. Official Session Discord was pretty much the hub for the community. That's where you went and you hung out with people, you posted clips, people did events, things like that, and also you were able to kind of chat to the developers and things like that. It was a pretty cool little place. But then Creature decided to just completely abolish all of that, turned the Discord into what it is now, which is just a glorified Q&A where Donovan Strain might answer your question if you're lucky, but the answer to your question is probably going to be a disappointing one. And that's kind of the turning point, I think, where most people were very much turned off Creature and felt like they no longer trusted the Session developers. And then when it comes to Skate, pretty much the main point where people kind of turned on the developers was when this game just kind of got announced as a free-to-play live service game. But even then, they, you know, said that they were listening to the community, so I think people still had kind of some trust in them. But now that the game has been out for a couple months, we're in the season 1, we're into the Halloween event and everything, and most of what people have been asking for has not been added, nor has it even been commented on for the most part. I think the majority of players lost faith in the developers. So apart from skateboarding, the main things that SkaterXL Session and Skate have in common are that nobody likes the developers, and that the community just is pretty unhappy with the current state of those games. I think that Session is currently on track to redeeming itself with the release of this next update on the 29th of October, which I will be doing a full video on. And then there is supposed to be another update this year after this next one. Then we don't know what to expect in 2026 with Session, although the developers did say that they are going to be working on the game still and updating it. The Session devs have finally started adding features that are coming in this next update and the update after that a lot of people have been asking for a very long time, such as goofy animations. Albeit, it's a little bit too little too late for a lot of players, but for the most part, they seem to be kind of clawing back some respect, you know, kind of turning around the community a little bit, but we will see on the 29th if it's going to be enough. Obviously, Easy Day, the SkaterXL developers, have not said a word in quite some time, so there's no chance that they're ever going to win back their community. SkaterXL and Session have both been out for a number of years now, but Skate is still a little baby. It's only been out for a couple months. There's still a lot of growing to do with Skate. There's still a chance that the developers can really pull through, add a lot of the features the community want, listen to the community, hopefully release some more bug fixes, and in general just improve this game. They still have kind of time to do that, although this most recent buyout with EA definitely suggests that it might be a bit of a bleak future for this game, but it's too soon to speak on that, so kind of only time will tell what happens with that whole thing. The developers very much still have a chance, since Skate is still in its infancy, to turn this into a game that kind of everybody is happy with. At least, you know, the majority of the community is happy with, which is kind of the main thing you want, right? But it really does beg the question, why has every kind of modern skateboarding game that has come out recently just been met with disappointment and has just not reached the expectations people have wanted for it? I think there's a problem in modern gaming where developers come out and they talk about how open their development is, and you know, how they're listening to the community and they have all these big things planned, and they really just kind of end up saying way more than they should. It's basically going to be impossible not to disappoint a lot of people when you're coming out and you're saying a bunch of stuff that you have planned for this game that inevitably end up getting scrapped, or just don't work out the way the developers want. Although it's nice on the surface, I feel like that just never ends well, because every dev team ultimately ends up not being very open with the development, and everything kind of goes back behind closed doors, and that just then means that the community just ends up not trusting you, because you said you were going to be open, you said you were going to be transparent, and you were going to listen to feedback, and then when you don't follow through with that, obviously it doesn't look good. So I think that there's just a trend with modern gaming where developers really want to come out of the gate when the game's announced, they want to talk about how open and honest they're going to be, and then it always ends up falling through. At some point after the game is released, the developers kind of go into hiding. I feel like a lot of that is probably pressure from the big publishers that own these games. I think a lot of Skate's downfall, for example, is down to EA, and I just know that a lot of these really annoying decisions when it comes to like overpriced microtransactions, free-to-play, live service, all this comes down to EA, the big corporate publisher that wants to make as much money as possible. You know, a lot of those decisions come down to those guys that don't care about the game, they just care about the money it makes. Again, a big problem with modern gaming is that most franchises are owned by these big publishers, and the big publishers end up pulling the strings, and the developers who want to add certain features and who want to make a really good game end up getting shot down, because whatever they want to put in the game isn't going to make money, or if they want to add something into the game for free, the publisher's going to say, no, hold on, we can charge for this instead. And not only does that kind of problem plague Skate because of EA, it also plagues Session because of Nacon, who are Session's publisher. It still is an indie game. It's still an indie team, indie developers. If you're going to work on a skateboarding game to begin with, it has to be a passion project. It has to come from a place of love for skateboarding and passion. So I think that the dev team for both of these games do care about their games, but unfortunately evil publishers just get their grubby hands all over these titles, and they end up being the disappointments that they kind of are. Session and Skate suffer from that problem because they both have big publishers looking to make as much as they can out of this, which then negatively impacts the games. So I think that a lot of the time in the development of skateboarding games, the kind of, I guess, the monetized side of things gets priority over any sort of gameplay fixes. Oh, the game's about to crash. Great. Thanks, that's great. Okay, well, we're just gonna play Session now for the rest of the video, I guess. At least this isn't gonna crash. See, I get that the reason that the kind of money-making things are prioritized over bug fixes is, again, probably a publisher kind of thing, but it still does mean that the community has a hard time trusting the people making the game that they're playing when DLCs are being released or microtransactions are being put in, but the game still has a bunch of bugs that haven't been fixed. But I feel like the reason it affects skateboarding games so much is just because this is already such a niche market. Skateboarding popularity comes in waves, right? There's years where nobody cares about skateboarding, and then there's years where skateboarding is quite popular, and it could die out just as quick as it's kind of blown up. And the same thing goes for skateboarding games. That's why we have went so long without skateboarding games before, right? There was a big gap where there was really no skateboarding games being made. Pretty much after Skate 3, there was just that gap of nothingness for a while. And now we have since gone back into the kind of skateboarding being popular for a while. It's kind of in the spotlight, I suppose. I think that skate coming back is definitely a sign that skateboarding is back in the mainstream to some extent, because obviously skate is very much a mainstream title. Although I definitely have seen Session get a little bit more popular recently with kind of disappointment of skate for a lot of people. They have found themselves either coming back to Session or picking up Session for the first time, which I think is interesting. But then also people who were disappointed with the way Session has been handled and the lack of a lot of features and stuff is the reason why they've went over to skate. So it's kind of funny that both of these games have been kind of pushing and pulling at each other. Skate has been taking players away from Session, and Session has been taking players away from skate. For me, I get the enjoyment out of both, and I get to play both and enjoy both, and I like both games. I think both Session and skate can exist beside each other and keep a pretty decent player base. I do wonder if there's going to be a skateboarding game that comes along and just wipes both of these games out. But I just think it's funny that both of these games, while in a lot of ways drastically different, but also in a lot of ways very much the same, they both just share the same issues internally, which is they're both being kind of funded by massive big publishers that nobody likes, that both have bad track records and bad reputations, and also they have both kind of not met the expectations of what they kind of originally set out to do. But both developers just need to kind of win back their player base and win back their community in one way or another. And I just find it fascinating that skateboarding games have just been so hard to get right in modern gaming. And I know that it's definitely an underfunded genre. It's definitely rare that a publisher wants to attach itself to a skateboarding game because they generally aren't going to make as much money as the likes of, say, FIFA or like 2K or like any kind of, you know, sports game. Skateboarding games are not going to make the same amount of money those games make. So I get that they are underfunded. I get that they are mostly made up of small development teams. Despite kind of big name publishers being behind these games, they still aren't getting the funding and the kind of attention that these other games are getting. So I guess like a part of the kind of issue is that smaller teams, less money, there's gonna be more issues with the games that are getting released. But with that being said, we're also seeing completely indie, no big publisher, skateboarding games in development that are honestly looking like they are going to kind of blow Session, Skater XL, and Skate out of the water in terms of the amount of features and things that they are implementing into those games. And I think that it's good to kind of curb your expectations for any sort of skateboarding game as it comes out because of the current track record of the three games I'm talking about today. I guess the best lesson you can learn from this is to just like go into most skateboarding games with low expectations because history repeats itself. But the fact that these very small indie developers, and I'm talking about people who were originally just players and modders, we look at Fakeskate The Game, all the gameplay that they've released so far, even though it's very early gameplay, it shows some really cool features that we've never seen in a skateboarding game before. This is Skater XL modders and players and people from the community. This is a team made up of people who were in the community, who were playing Skater XL, who have been playing Session, and then thought, you know what, we could do better than these guys. And that's exactly what they're doing. And they're taking their time with that development. They're not revealing too much. They're kind of keeping everything behind closed doors, which I think probably is the better option. For developing these kind of things, just stay focused, stay locked in, making the game, and then only release information when it's 100% ready to be released and you're sure it's going to be in the game. Along with Fakeskate The Game, there's Skate Style, which I'm very excited on. There's very little information about Skate Style out there, unless you're kind of invited to be privy to that kind of information. But everything that I know about that game, all I will say is I'm very excited for that game, and it is going to blow the likes of SkateXL and Session and Skate out of the water in a lot of ways. SkateStyle as well has some kind of ex-SkateXL modders on the team, and it is just very much a small indie studio. But what they're doing with that game already is very impressive. And then we also have games like SkateLab, which is a slightly different approach to kind of the skate sim genre, which again, there's a lot of very cool things about that game, and it is being constantly updated and constantly worked on, and it is being developed by ex-SkateXL modders and ex-Session modders as well. So if you're kind of following the trend here, the most ambitious skateboarding games yet that are still being worked on, and we're probably not going to see for another couple of years at most, but they're all being developed by people who have spent so much time playing SkateXL, so much time playing Session, and probably a lot of time playing Skate as well. And they have picked up all this knowledge from either just playing the games, from just studying these games, or even modding these games themselves. And then they are now using all of that knowledge to just make what could possibly be some of the best skateboarding games yet. It shows you that having a big name publisher and kind of having the means to promote your game a lot, and having that kind of money behind your game, even if it's probably still underfunded compared to a lot of other games, it shows you that really none of that is important, and really all that's important is just having a dedicated, talented development team that know what people want, that are in the community, that have been in the trenches with the community for so long, and they know what people want. They know exactly what people have been asking for within a skateboarding game. So when I kind of ask the question, are modern skateboarding games doomed to fail? It's very easy to say yes, because of the current products that we have available and how the player base and the communities have been treated, how none of these games have quite reached the level that people anticipated before. It's very easy to say, yeah, okay, there's no going back from this. We're just going to have to kind of settle with a lot of kind of mediocre stuff when it comes to skateboarding games. You know, it's easy to kind of look at it with that kind of doom and gloom right now because of what we have in front of us and what we have available to us. But I genuinely think that the next kind of, what the hell? I think that this next kind of set of skateboarding games that we're going to see in the next couple of years being developed by players, by modders, by people that know what the people want, because they are the same. They are also the people that want the same things as we do. I think that this next kind of set of games is going to be probably the best in terms of skateboarding games and skate sims that we've ever had. And it's thanks to SkateXL, it's thanks to Session, and it's thanks to both the pros and cons of these games. Also, I guess thanks to Skate most recently, that have taught these developers what is good, what to do, what people want, and also taught them what not to do, what is bad, what people don't want. I think lots of lessons have been learned from what has been a pretty dire kind of situation in terms of skateboarding games in the last few years, and I think that that just means that the next couple of years are just going to get better for skateboarding games. So I think that we have a lot to look forward to. So I don't think that modern skateboarding games are doomed to fail. I think that we've just gone through this kind of dark patch. It's just served as a really good lesson to show what works, what doesn't work, and we are now in for some pretty good indie skateboarding games to grace our presence in the near future. Now, I do want to say, obviously, you know, I kind of don't want this whole video to just be kind of slandering Session, slandering Skate, or SkateXL, because you guys know that I love all of these games. There's a reason that I play all of these games. There's a reason that I built my whole channel off these games, because I genuinely enjoy playing them. Like I said, there's so much to learn, both good and bad, from these games. So it's not like it's all terrible. Session in its own right is a fantastic skate sim and has really pushed the boundaries in terms of what we can do with realistic skate sims. Skate has some of the best animations and best feeling flow in a skateboarding game. It's shown us what you can achieve when you really focus and put a lot of work into the actual skating. I think Skate has also showed us that having multiplayer in a skateboarding game is very, very important. Probably one of the most important aspects of a skateboarding game is skating with your friends. So Skate has really shown us that I think all future skateboarding games need some sort of multiplayer aspect. And I think that SkateXL has shown us that there is so much talent out there within the skate sim skateboarding genre community, because it was the players that banded together that decided to mod SkateXL into the skateboarding game, that the developers would not give us. And then a lot of those guys have since went on to then work on Fakeskate The Game, SkateLab, SkateStyle, and the future of skateboarding games. So all three games have a lot of positive things to offer, and there's a lot of pros. And I know I've mostly been focusing on the kind of negative things, but there's so much good that has come from these games as well. And so, like I said, I think that we are on the cusp of potentially a really great next couple years for skateboarding games. We very well may see a big improvement to Session with these next couple updates. We might see a big improvement to Skate in, say, the next season, the next events, and that updated internal build of Skater XL might very well come out at some point. So I think that Session and Skate still have a very viable future, and I really do wish the best to the developers and to these games. I want them to succeed. I want them to just continue to get better, and I want us just to have more better skateboarding games. That's all I want. So I honestly do wish the best to the developers of Skate, of Session, and I just want them to continue to improve the games. And skateboarding games just aren't mainstream enough to sustain themselves. It's all about the players and the community that are playing these games. The market for these games is so fickle that you need to be on the side of the players. Otherwise, you're going to end up having a situation like Skater XL. But this is, of course, you know, a kind of pretty long discussion, and I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts because I've just been thinking about this kind of stuff a lot recently. Mostly just because of the way kind of Skate has been going, and it has kind of just made me think about the skateboarding video games as a whole, because that's kind of my whole thing, right? So, you know, I think about it a lot. So I want you guys to start a discussion in the comments and let me know kind of where you're at with skateboarding games, where you think the future of skateboarding games are going to go. Are you excited for Fakeskate? Are you excited for SkateStyle? Maybe you're playing a lot of SkateLab and you want to see where it goes. Maybe there's other skateboarding games out there that you know are being made. I know that there is other ones being worked on. Maybe you're hyped for the Session update. Maybe you think that Session is still the kind of future of skateboarding games. Maybe you're holding on to Skate and you think that Season 2, Season 3, and the next events are going to be the best yet. You know, maybe you're more optimistic, maybe you're more pessimistic, let me know. But that is going to do it for the day. Thank you for listening to me yap, and yeah, as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.